In this episode, we'll delve into the tragic tale of a seemingly devoted wife, her unsuspecting husband, and a stepson who finds himself caught in a deadly web of obsession and betrayal. This is the story of a double life and the fateful choices that led to unimaginable tragedy. In a small suburban neighborhood, a family once bound by love is torn apart by a forbidden affair, leaving betrayal, guilt, and bloodshed in its wake. This is the story of a wife's double life that ended in brutal murder. In a peaceful, unassuming town, Watford, surrounded by gently sloping hills, life flowed at a slower pace, allowing its residents to savor the simplicity of suburban routines. The town, dotted with charming homes and lush parks, exuded a warmth and tranquility, where families gathered at local diners and neighbors greeted each other warmly from across white picket fences. The Fosters were one of the respected families in this community, their home a picture of suburban perfection, a two-story colonial house, its light blue shutters and flower-filled window boxes radiating a welcoming charm. Their front yard, always immaculately kept, showcased Julia's love for gardening, a passion she developed to bring beauty and color into their lives. Tom Foster, a well-established businessman in his late 40s, had built a solid reputation in town for his reliability and professionalism. He was known to be a man of unwavering dedication, both in his work and in his family life. After the loss of his first wife, Tom had thrown himself into his work and his role as a father to Liam, trying to build a secure future for them. When he met Julia, he saw in her the qualities he longed for: warmth, kindness, and a spirited nature that contrasted his own reserved personality. Their 10-year age gap hadn't mattered. Julia's presence filled a void, and she soon became the bridge between Tom's orderly world and the emotional needs of his teenage son. Julia, lively and affectionate, embraced her role as a stepmother wholeheartedly. She had a natural ability to connect with people, and her gentle approach made it easy for Liam to accept her as part of the family. She knew how to bring laughter into the home, organizing family game nights, cooking special dinners, and cheering Liam on at his school soccer games. To the outside world, she was the glue holding their family together, transforming the household into a place of warmth and togetherness. She quickly became a central figure in the Fosters' lives, and her nurturing relationship with Liam seemed to reinforce their family's bond. Liam, 17 and at a pivotal stage of adolescence, found Julia's presence comforting. She became not just a stepmother but a friend, someone he could talk to about things he might not feel comfortable discussing with his father. Julia provided a listening ear, encouraging him in his studies, his interests, and helping him navigate the usual trials of teenage life. Their bond, at first, seemed rooted in genuine affection and mutual support, but beneath the pleasant exterior of this suburban family, unspoken desires and unexamined emotions began to stir. Julia's role in the family became complicated as she developed a deeper, hidden attachment to Liam. She found herself lingering in their moments together, her gestures and words taking on new significance, her attention focused not only on his well-being, but on the subtle, exhilarating feeling that her presence stirred something more in him. As time went on, what had begun as maternal affection blurred into something forbidden, filling Julia with both excitement and guilt. At first, these feelings seemed harmless, an internal fantasy that she convinced herself would fade. But as they spent more time together, a sense of secrecy and danger emerged, intensifying her emotions. Liam, though young, felt the complexity of their connection as well, sensing the boundaries of their relationship but unsure how to navigate them. The growing closeness became a double-edged sword, with Julia's affections bordering on obsession and their interactions tinged with a sense of forbidden attraction. The house, once a sanctuary, transformed into a place of conflicting emotions where Tom remained oblivious, caught up in work and daily responsibilities. He loved Julia, and he trusted her, but subtle changes in the family's dynamic gnawed at him. A lingering look between Julia and Liam, a whisper cut short, a moment of laughter that seemed out of place. Tom dismissed his instincts, chalking it up to the natural challenges of blending a family, and focused on maintaining his routine, unaware of the deeper currents that threatened his marriage and family. As winter approached, the atmosphere within the Fosters' home grew increasingly strained, the once open warmth replaced by unspoken tension. Julia's dual roles as both wife and stepmother pulled her in two directions as she struggled to maintain the facade of a perfect family life while concealing her forbidden attachment. The stability she had brought to Tom's life began to crack under the weight of her secret, her actions casting a shadow over the very family she had vowed to nurture. By early spring 2022, the Foster home stood as a symbol of serene family life. The house, a charming two-story with pale blue shutters and a welcoming front porch, blended perfectly into the town's quiet suburban aesthetic. Julia kept the home meticulously maintained, her gardening adding bursts of color with every seasonal bloom. Every Sunday, she'd spend hours tending to her plants, pulling weeds and pruning the flowers, relishing the quiet control it afforded her. The interior echoed the same sense of careful curation. Family photos lined the walls, Liam's sports trophies and certificates adorned the hallway, and Tom's meticulously organized bookshelf took pride of place in the living room, its volumes reflecting his serious, studious nature. Yet, as the demands of Tom's business grew, he was increasingly absent, often returning home late or leaving for business trips that spanned days. While his ambition had long been a part of their marriage, Julia felt the weight of his absences more acutely than ever, especially as she adjusted to her role as Liam's stepmother. Her love for Tom had once been enough, a steady anchor in her life. But as he grew distant, Julia found herself yearning for companionship and a connection that Tom's work-driven life no longer provided. This emotional void led Julia and Liam into a complex and unspoken dynamic. The relationship, rooted in the innocent bond of stepmother and stepson, began to deepen with each shared glance, each long conversation. At 17, Liam was no longer a child but on the cusp of adulthood, navigating the insecurities and ambitions of youth. He gravitated toward Julia, appreciating her warmth and willingness to listen in ways that his father's stern demeanor seldom allowed. Julia, in turn, felt a strange thrill in their time together, her affection beginning to transcend the boundaries of motherly care, evolving into something she knew was inappropriate, yet couldn't quite resist. As winter melted into spring, the two grew closer. Their innocent conversations about school and family life took on an intimate tone as they shared personal thoughts and dreams. Small moments that once went unnoticed, like brushing hands while setting the table or a lingering look, became charged with tension. Julia knew she was stepping into dangerous territory, but the pull was intoxicating. With Tom's frequent absences, she and Liam became a support system for each other, both filling a void they'd never spoken aloud. The turning point arrived in mid-March, a day that would forever alter the course of their lives. On April 17th, Easter weekend, Tom was called away to attend a gathering with a business partner in another city. Initially, Julia had been expected to join, but when last-minute changes arose, she stayed behind, leaving her and Liam alone in the house for 3 uninterrupted days. With Tom gone, the boundaries that had previously kept them apart grew hazy, a thin veil worn thin by opportunity and temptation. They filled their time with shared meals, long conversations by the fireplace, and movies late into the night. It was as though the house itself held its breath, the cozy familiarity transforming into a space charged with an unspoken intensity. Julia's feelings, once deeply buried, began to surface, her connection with Liam taking on a life of its own. The quiet intimacy between them reached a crescendo that weekend, and the line between affection and desire finally blurred past repair. On that fateful Easter weekend, a door opened that neither Julia nor Liam would ever be able to close again, and the seemingly perfect foster family was set on a course of irreversible change. After that Easter weekend, the air between Julia and Liam was thick with a new and dangerous tension. The intimacy they had shared created a bond far deeper than either anticipated, shifting the power dynamics in their relationship in unforeseen ways. For 17-year-old Liam, the experience was intoxicating. Having crossed a threshold with someone he viewed as wise and alluring, he found himself captivated, yearning for more of the same attention and closeness. But for Julia, the realization of what they had done struck like a bolt of dread. Days after Tom returned, Julia attempted to restore some semblance of normalcy, convincing herself that what had happened was a momentary lapse, a mistake, one she would bury in her heart and never allow to resurface. She became distant, avoiding moments alone with Liam, her demeanor shifting from warm and maternal to cold and withdrawn. She told herself she could compartmentalize it, to stay as far removed from her stepson as possible while maintaining the image of the devoted wife and stepmother. But Liam wouldn't allow her to pull away so easily. In his eyes, Julia's affection was not a mistake, but a promise, one he felt she had no right to break. He saw her attempts to distance herself as a betrayal, something that stirred resentment and frustration. The more she pulled away, the more intensely he craved her attention, and soon his desperation morphed into anger. On a quiet afternoon on May 10th, while Tom was away at work, Liam confronted Julia in the kitchen, the intensity of his emotions clear in his unflinching stare. Julia was taken aback, trying to diffuse the situation with the gentle but firm insistence that what they'd shared was wrong and could never happen again. But Liam, unable to accept her rejection, hinted that he could expose their secret. He threatened to tell his father, casting Julia as the corrupter, the adult who had preyed on a vulnerable teenager. Julia felt the world close in on her as the weight of his words sank in. Liam's threat hung between them like a weapon, his youthful face twisted with a mix of anger, betrayal, and a hunger for control. He no longer looked like the boy she once thought she could guide and nurture. Instead, he appeared as a stranger, one who held her future in his hands. Her life became a delicate balancing act as she tried to navigate the increasingly volatile relationship with her stepson. She placated him, hoping to keep him satisfied without crossing further lines, attempting to appease his desires with small gestures. But Liam was relentless, pressing her for more, demanding the same intimacy he had tasted on that fateful weekend. Julia's once peaceful home now felt like a prison, her every interaction with Liam laced with fear of exposure. Every day was a psychological battle, a push and pull between maintaining the facade of their family life and keeping Liam appeased enough to prevent him from exposing the truth. At night, she would lie awake, torn between guilt and desperation, her mind racing with the potential consequences of her actions. She began to feel the weight of her decisions pressing down on her, suffocating her under the knowledge that one misstep could lead to ruin. Tom, meanwhile, remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within his own home. Preoccupied with work, he saw only the surface of things, a family that on the outside appeared harmonious and close. He had no idea that beneath the quiet smiles and polite exchanges, his wife and son were locked in a secret battle, one that grew more dangerous with each passing day. As the summer progressed, the oppressive heat mirrored the escalating tension between Julia and Liam. The air was thick with unspoken words, and Julia felt as though she were walking a tightrope, precariously balancing her roles as a devoted wife and a willing accomplice in her stepson's dangerous game. Every moment alone with Liam was a calculated risk, and her heart raced with anxiety as she attempted to navigate this new and treacherous reality. In her mind, Julia rationalized her decisions, convincing herself that if she gave in to Liam's demands, it would keep him from exposing their secret. She began to cater to his whims, showering him with attention and affection, all in the hopes of quelling his desire for more. The boundary that had once defined their relationship blurred further, and with each passing day, she found herself ensnared in a web of deceit and complicity. Liam, for his part, was becoming increasingly adept at manipulating the situation to his advantage. The moment he realized that Julia was willing to bend to his desires, he pushed the limits, demanding not only her emotional support, but physical affection that sent shivers of fear down her spine. The once warm interactions now carried an edge of urgency, a constant reminder that he held power over her. He would often suggest they spend time alone, watching movies late at night or going for walks in the nearby park, places where they could share stolen moments and unguarded conversations, cloaked in the guise of innocence. But deep down, Julia knew that this path was fraught with danger. She feared that each moment of intimacy brought them closer to a precipice from which there would be no return. The more she indulged him, the more he expected. It was a vicious cycle that tightened its grip with every passing day. Each interaction became a test of her resolve, a battle between her desire to maintain her facade of a perfect family and the need to protect herself from the fallout of their actions. Yet there was a flicker of hope in the back of her mind. Julia often found herself thinking of Liam's upcoming college plans. He had applied to several universities, and she clung to the belief that once he enrolled, he would leave their small town and her life behind. The thought of him embarking on a new journey filled her with a sense of relief, as if the physical distance would also create an emotional divide that would help sever their bond. She envisioned a future where their relationship would fade into a distant memory, a mere shadow of a summer-long past. But with each passing day, Julia felt the disparity between the life she nurtured and the chaos brewing in her home. The tension reached a boiling point on a humid day on July 15th. Julia returned from grocery shopping to find Liam lounging on the couch, his eyes bright with a knowing gleam. He had been waiting for her, his demeanor casual but charged with an underlying intensity. As she placed the groceries on the kitchen counter, she could sense the shift in the atmosphere, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. Her heart raced with a mixture of dread and anticipation. Liam stood before her, an unsettling confidence radiating from him, the playful facade giving way to something darker. She felt trapped, caught between the need to maintain her composure and the overwhelming sense of danger lurking in his gaze. The atmosphere thickened as he advanced, a predatory glint in his eyes, and suddenly the room felt smaller, the walls closing in around her as he closed the distance between them. In an instant, the tension snapped, and Liam took control, forcing her down onto the cool kitchen floor. Julia's mind raced, grappling with the shock of his actions and the betrayal of the bond they had shared. Her heart pounded in her chest as she tried to process the reality of her situation, the chaos of the moment drowning out all rational thought. She felt a mix of fear and despair as she realized the depths of her entrapment, caught in a web of manipulation that left her powerless, her carefully curated life unraveling before her very eyes. The once familiar kitchen, a place of comfort and nourishment, transformed into a battleground where innocence was lost and boundaries shattered, marking the end of her world as she knew it. And as the summer wore on, the oppressive heat became a reflection of the turmoil brewing within her, a relentless reminder that time was running out. Julia was caught in a dangerous game, one where the stakes were higher than she could ever have imagined, and the end result was far from certain. Julia knew that breaking away from Liam would be anything but easy. The emotional toll of living a double life pressed heavily on her, turning each day into a grueling exercise in deceit. Initially, she believed that yielding to his demands would allow her to manage the situation until he left for college. But as their relationship deepened, it became increasingly entangled in emotional manipulation and unspoken threats. Liam's charm had given way to an unsettling intensity, and he made it clear he wouldn't let her go easily, wielding their past encounters as leverage. The warmth of their home, once filled with laughter, was now tainted by secrecy and fear. Desperate to reclaim her life, Julia devised a plan to confront him, hoping to appeal to the caring stepson she once knew. But as the day of reckoning arrived, a warm afternoon on September 20th, when sunlight streamed through the kitchen, her resolve wavered. When Liam walked in, a casual smile masked a brewing storm within him. Julia's heart raced as she sensed the shift in their dynamic. The boy she had confided in was now a force she barely recognized. As she began to voice her desire for distance, Liam's irritation flashed in his eyes. He stepped closer, invading her personal space, and the heat in the room intensified. The playful banter of their earlier days was replaced by a charged silence, and Julia felt paralyzed, unsure of how to navigate this escalating tension. She understood, with chilling clarity, that there was no easy escape from the tangled web they had woven together. In that moment, she realized that to reclaim her life and find a way out of this mess, she had to be honest with Tom. The decision felt both liberating and terrifying. She understood that facing her husband would be the hardest thing she had ever done, but it was the only path forward. In the depths of her turmoil, Julia made a silent vow to confront the truth, knowing that the time for secrets had come to an end. But Liam had his own plan of action. He had sensed Julia's growing desire to end their affair and was determined to keep her from breaking free. On October 10th, Julia seized the opportunity she had been waiting for. Knowing Liam would be out late with his friends, she urged Tom to come home early for an important conversation. As she prepared to reveal the truth about her affair, a sense of dread washed over her. Just as she began to open the curtain of secrecy to her husband, she heard the unmistakable sound of Liam's return. Panic surged through Julia as she realized he had come home early. She quickly glanced at Tom, her heart racing, fearing that their moment of honesty would slip away. But Liam had other plans. Hidden from view, he overheard snippets of their conversation, and rage boiled within him. In a desperate bid to regain control and silence Julia once and for all, he made a chilling decision. With a cold determination, he gathered materials from the garage, carefully plotting to set the house ablaze. As the flames began to flicker to life, he envisioned the perfect accident, a catastrophic event that would erase all evidence of his manipulation and keep Julia from exposing their sordid secret. As the fire spread, the heat became a suffocating blanket, consuming the very sanctuary they had once shared. Julia remained unaware of the impending danger, caught in a tense exchange with Tom. The moment of truth was fast approaching, but in the shadows, Liam's sinister plan was already in motion. The fire engulfed the house, claiming the lives of both Tom and Julia, leaving behind a scene of devastation that would haunt the memories of those who knew them. In his quest for control, Liam had sealed their fates, transforming a web of deceit into a tragic loss that would reverberate through their lives forever. Tom, once a loving husband and father, had lost everything in a matter of moments: his wife, his son, and the life they had built together. The tragedy left a void that could never be filled, a haunting reminder of the choices made in the shadows. In his final moments, as the flames consumed their home, he was robbed of the opportunity to understand the depth of Julia's struggles and the betrayal that had unfolded within the walls they had shared. Julia, driven by loneliness and unfulfilled desire, paid the ultimate price for her choices. Her search for solace in the arms of her stepson had led her down a path of destruction where desire morphed into desperation. The fleeting moments of passion were eclipsed by the irreversible consequences of her actions. As the smoke filled the air, so too did the weight of regret, an unbearable realization that she had sacrificed everything for a fleeting escape from reality. Meanwhile, Liam emerged from the ashes, a figure shrouded in the guise of a victim. In the eyes of the community, he was an innocent caught in a tragic accident, a boy who had lost his mother and father in a horrific fire. However, he knew the role he had played in this tragedy, the web of manipulation and deceit that had ensnared them all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this gripping tale, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel for more thrilling crime stories. Your support helps us bring you the narratives that keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned for more.